So weed is going to be on the ballot in a lot of states this year. It is also going through other channels. But before we go any further, if you like this or if you want to see any more of this, please like and subscribe and comment down below what you would like to see next. It doesn't even have to be anything about laws. It could just be about weed itself. But today we're going to talk about specifically deep South governors spewing nonsense about what is to come with legalization. Because Mississippi is saying some stuff that is absolutely insane.
No, as I have said many times, I think those individual legislators who worked on the marijuana bill, and I know they want you to call it a medical marijuana bill, but I'm going to call it the marijuana bill as it currently exists. Under the law, as it in its most recent draft, you can get up to 3.5 grams of the product. Now, the proponents of this particular bill love to talk about grams, and they love to talk about all these other things that nobody fully understands. But if you look, and you don't even have to be that good, it's a pretty simple Google search. 3.5 grams would allow for all 300,000 Mississippians with a marijuana card to get up to 11 joints a day. 11 joints a day. It is my view that when
no shot. This is hilarious. This guy's thinking that you can get 11 joints out of 3.5 grams. There's no way he meant that. There's no way he meant that. And also, I love how he's like, we love to talk about grams. Nobody knows what grams is. No shit. We're in America. Like, metric system. We need to switch to the metric system is what we need to do. Even then, we'll just be smarter. It'll just be easier to do math. So much easier. So that way we don't have to remember how many feet are in a fucking mile. I saw this and I thought this was just the dumbest thing in the world. Really quick, 3.5 grams is an eighth. That's an average size for typically whoever wants to get high. Depending on who has it, it can either last you a weekend, it could last you a week, it could last you a couple hours, depending on who is smoking this. 3.5 grams, you can make 11 joints out of it. That's 0.3 grams per joint. You may be thinking, well, that's a lot. That might be a lot. I don't think you can grasp how much a gram is, because grams are not that much. Grams are very minuscule. If you're thinking grams in terms of what it is on the US customary scale, it's not even ounces. Think of it as like a centimeter to a pound. This guy is saying that 3.5 is too much and it'll count for 11 joints each. And I'll show you exactly what that means. This, in my hand, is a 5-pack of joints. 5-pack of pre-rolls. 5 of these bad boys are 1.5 grams. A little over half of what the Mississippi governor deems too much to be on the streets for an adult human. This is the 5-pack. This is a regular quarter. One joint, a regular US quarter, and 0.3 of a gram joint, what the Mississippi governor believes to be too much weed for one human being.
And you allow 300,000 Mississippians to get 11 joints a day, or approximately 3.3 million joints a day, or almost 1.2 billion.
Whoa, that's a lot. It's a large numbers. He's doing this typical thing that people do to scare you, which is make up a bigger number. Okay. What happens when there's 3 million joints out there? Have you thought about how these people get the joints? Are they just rolling up and smoking their own? No, a lot of people have to go and buy these joints from a licensed dispensary. And then at that licensed dispensary, maybe they might tax a few things here and there, which means you might get some money in your pocket at the end of the day.
Joints over a year, that at some point that has become no longer medical marijuana, but recreational marijuana. If there are 1.2 billion joints floating around Mississippi in any one year, I believe.
Let me just clarify. Let me just reiterate here. 1.2 million of these joints. 1.2 million of these joints. Okay, we're gonna get out my handy dandy scale here. Okay, this is a little pocket scale. Pick one up on Amazon. This is some weed I grew myself. That's about 1 ounce in that jar right there. 1 ounce has 3.5 bags in it. right? But currently in here, I have 8 of these. So I'm gonna measure out exactly how much 3.5 grams looks like. Now right there, this nug in particular is 1.3 grams. Here's another one. That one was only about half a gram. All right, that's exactly 3.5 grams right there. So this is exactly 3.5 grams right in here. And realistically, it's nothing compared to the complete 2.5 ounces that I can legally buy at my store. So I think it's really ridiculous that the governor thinks that 3.5 grams is way too much for one person. I think 3.5 grams is not enough. That's insane and plain ignorance on his part for literally not knowing the metric system.
I think you're going to see it's going to be even harder, for instance, to fill jobs in Mississippi. I think it's going to be even harder to get individuals that we already have a labor shortage in our state.
Such a backwards way of thinking as well, because yes, you approve medical marijuana. Where are people going to buy it once you do it? My God, you're not seeing the full picture here. It's so stupid to think that people won't go back to work when you're opening up a completely new industry.
And of course, I think the crime and other things that go along with it.
Also, another backwards argument. If you are decriminalizing something, crime goes down. There is less crime to be had because there's less dumb laws to break. Does that make a little bit more sense? Just want to interject one more thing in here. Crime is such a weird statistic to quantify. Associating a business with crime is such a silly thing to do in particular anyways. Like, is the business doing the crime? Are the employees of the business committing crimes? Are the customers committing crimes in the dispensaries? And wouldn't that mean that it's bad that the crimes are being committed on dispensaries? Mainly because it is a cash on hand system and a lot of dispensaries do get robbed. Or the customers go and do crimes after? And how would them doing crimes after shopping at a particular place influence them to do the crime? If someone went to Target and then robbed a bank, does that mean we should shut down Target? You see how silly this gets after a while, right? Every study that I have found that shows that crime has increased with dispensaries is basically just showing that crime is increasing in those areas, regardless of whether or not a dispensary is put in or not. The dispensary is just a geographic location that somehow represents the increase in crime. The same thing could be said for Starbucks that open up or other fast food chains. The one thing in particular that does happen is crimes related to medical marijuana with people who don't have a medical marijuana card. These people might need to try out the medicine before they understand if it's right for them. That's why keeping this legal for just a few people and not legal for everybody causes problems and confusion, and the wrong people will get hurt. That's all. Bro, I might actually have incentive to visit Mississippi. I think we're just gonna get dumb governors saying some dumb shit about weed. And he's not the only one. Ohio Governor Mike DeWine won't sign a bill that would otherwise get passed because of studies done in Colorado around traffic accidents and children visiting the emergency rooms. And to very quickly break that down, weed metabolizes differently than alcohol in the body. That's why it's not accurate to test for marijuana on roadside traffic stops. And the reason why there's no study that shows a correlation between traffic accidents and the legalization of weed. There are studies that show that traffic accidents go up after legalization, but there's no correlation between the auto accidents and weed itself. It's the same thing with the crime that they argue about. Everything. They're grouping together all of these bad things and saying because of this point, all of these bad things happened after this point. However, it is true that more kids are visiting the emergency rooms after the legalization of weed. There have been 2 studies that accurately show an increase of emergency room visits because of marijuana ingestion. But there are no deaths, and the longest hospitalization is around 26 hours, 38 at most. They're basically just given beds and IV bags. Regardless, it's not something that should be happening, let alone be happening in a global pandemic. And it is a pretty damning piece of evidence because it shows that even with child-safe containers and parental supervision, kids are still getting into this stuff. But I feel like the argument can be made that it's because of the taboo and not being able to have an honest conversation with your family and with the kids. Granted, some of these kids don't really understand any of that. They're like 2-3 years old. They're just getting into anything anyways. But if people could have an honest conversation as to why they have these gummies and to keep them in a place where everybody knows and is out of reach of children, maybe we won't see as many emergency room visits. Maybe if we break down the stigma, they won't have to hide it. But I think the big push in all of these states, a giant calling card as to why we need to have more open, honest, and casual conversations about this. In the end, this is all recreational. We're all here to have a good time anyways, so come on. But if powerful people keep saying things like this,
the only difference between medical marijuana and recreational marijuana is word choice. Doctors can't prescribe it and pharmacists can't provide it because it's not medicine.
it leads to normal families getting hurt like this.
Across Nebraska, there are 34 petition signings to get medical cannabis on the ballot for next year. There are 2 petitions to sign. One is to protect caregivers from getting arrested so they can provide medical cannabis to their loved ones. The other is to regulate businesses that give medical marijuana to patients. A husband and wife duo hosted a petition signing at their home in Bellevue since their son has a rare catastrophic seizure disorder.
We've had success with some of the alternative therapies, but we have the most hope and interest in medical cannabis because of all of the online community groups that we're in and the success stories we see from other families who live in legal states. So that's why it's become really important for us, for Will and for others like him, to at least have the option to try it.
And if you want to learn